This show is brought to you by our friends at bayphoto.com. Head over after the show to print something amazing. Be sure to check out their specials at bayphoto.com/specials.
So our topic is, and this is, so Mark had this book Create. I featured it a couple of years ago in my holiday gear guide. It's in this year's holiday gear guide as well. That's the book. He's holding it right there. Create.
Boom.
Mark has been on the show. He's been here in sunny Florida.
That's right. Several times.
And so it's a terrific book, but he went back and updated the book, and he kind of changed the headline because a lot of people, and with good reason these days on social media, have a real fear about putting your art out into the world, right? So it's dicey. And Vanilla, you know, and I know. The button says share, but it might as well say submit for critique.
Because submit at your own peril.
All right, so Mark, give us some ideas from the book. How do we deal with this stuff? Because we all face it. Everybody.
Yeah, it's the number one thing that gets in the way. You know, it's like fear is the exact opposite of creativity. And it doesn't have to just be a fear of sharing your work. It's just the fear that goes along with putting yourself out there. Now, one of the things I did is I interviewed 12 really super creative people to find out their story, how they overcame barriers. You know, they weren't just born this way. They had to make it happen. And one of the people I interviewed is a fantastic photographer. Her name is Camille Seaman. She has, if you haven't seen her work, Google it after the show. She has got unbelievable accomplishments. She's a TED fellow, not just having done one TED Talk. She's a fellow. She's been published in National Geographic, Time Magazine, New York Times. She's a Stanford Knight Fellow. I mean, she is something. So she said the very first thing that you have to overcome, the biggest barrier when you're putting yourself out on your creative career, guess what? Who's the first person you have to sell on your own work?
Your mom?
Not your mom.
Yourself?
Not your dog.
Yourself?
River is like, hey, she just will buy anything I've got. The first person you got to sell is yourself. And she said, the biggest thing that she had to learn was overcoming those voices that are saying, you're not good enough. What makes you think you can do this? You'll never make it. You know, those little things that ricochet around in our head? That was her message. You got to learn to shove those away and overcome them. But, you know, Scott, I've noticed this in selling stuff. The first person you've got to get set straight is yourself. How many times have you undersold something or not put it out there because you didn't think it was good enough or whatever? So her message was, you got to know yourself. And she said, find out, and this is a really good exercise, take a whiteboard or a big sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle of it. On one half of the page or the whiteboard, write, what makes me happy? On the other side, what makes me unhappy? And really do this. She recommends this. Like, find out for yourself, what is it that sparks joy for you? And what is it that you dread, that you just don't want to do? Okay, well, some of those things we kind of have to do. I mean, there's certain things I don't like doing. I don't like shopping, for instance. I really don't. I'm not a good shopper. I contend that women view shopping as a sport.
Oh, God.
And men view it as it's something to get out of the way. You know, I'll shop as short a period of time as I can. Whereas this is a huge generality. I'll probably get all sorts of flack for this, but I noticed, see, I'm putting myself out in the world.
Yep.
But as a generality, I see a lot of women take it as a sport. Like, how long can you make this last, this wonderful experience? But anyway, getting back to the point here of this little exercise, figure out for yourself, what is it that sparks joy? And I contend that as a creative, as a photographer, if you don't put your work out to the world, you're never going to be satisfied.
Awesome.
If it just lives on your hard drive, if it lives like in the old days in a shoebox or on negatives and you never share it with anybody, you're not putting out your creativity. That's the final step of what we call the cycle of creativity. So that's a big lesson right there. She said, know yourself. Find out what it is about you. Where are you going? What is your goal? That's one way to, get rid of that fear thing. Because if you know what your goal is and you're willing to just endure, there are people, Scott, we know, and I put this in the book, there are people out there, it's hard to see this because it's pretty small, but the sign says, beware of vampires. There are vampires out there. A small percentage of the world cannot do anything, but they can shoot anyone down, right?
Yep.
And you got to just kind of get over it. Just know that they're out there and go, well, I've fulfilled my quota. In a group of people, 20% of them will unfortunately be in this kind of negative zone where that's all they see is negativity. So don't focus on them. Look at the 80% of the positive. Those are your people.
I know,
right?
But Mark, that's such a hard thing.
I know.
Because you get 100, hey, it's a great shot. And you can't tell who said any of those. And someone says, I don't know, I think it's kind of meh. And you go, that's Bob Johnson from Albuquerque. Yeah. And you know exactly the day it had. That was September 14th when that guy went on and said that thing about my photo. It's very, very hard because I think we're wired to focus on the bad stuff, right? And it's very hard for us to believe the good stuff, right? Like the good stuff just goes whizzing by and the bad stuff slaps you in the face and it sits there and it keeps hitting you and popping you and oh man, it's very, very hard. And a buddy and I mine talk about this, quite a bit, because you'll put up a photo or something and it makes you very hesitant because you think, well, what happens if somebody's in a bad mood and they just go to town on you? And that happens. I mean, there's stuff that, I've got sadly a million stories of when I've put up something and someone just says, you know what? It's time for me to take him down a peg, and they just roast me. And I'm like, I wish I'd never posted that photo. And you might have 800 likes or 1,200 likes, and you got this one guy that says, this is crap. This is absolute crap. And you're just like, I gotta sell. How much will B&H give me for this new?
The brand new.
It's I got to get rid of this thing. But it's very true.
It's just something. I think we have a break coming up soon.
Well, don't. That's not for you, Vanelli. Don't look at that screen. That screen is not for you.
I'll tell you what.
That's not your screen.
Scott,
when I stepped down,
you really noticed.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, when I stepped down.
Go ahead.
Hang on, V's got a thing.
Let me get
down.
We have a microphone though.
When I stepped down from competition, a reporter came up to me and asked, because typical, right? Oh, you're young, you're retiring. Oh, you're going to come back out against the old champions. I used the same quote I gave him years later for photography. I said, look, let me explain something. I've always appreciated the roar of the crowd, but I never allowed their applause of approval be a measurement of my success. My measurement of my success was me. And if I felt I did the best I could, and if it just happened to take me to the championship circle, then that was, icing on the cake. That was something my father and my brother John taught me. And I never had that feeling of wanting to get back out again. Because a lot of people, that's what happens.
Yeah.
You get out there and somebody, for the longest time, they said to me, my first year I won the Triple Crown, my brother retired. And they said, oh, he's a champion because my brother was undefeated. Oh, his brother just stepped down and gave it to him. I had to battle that for 2 more years to finally win the crowd over.
So you won the Triple Crown?
3 years in a row.
I didn't even know you were into horse racing. Seriously?
Can you imagine a horse looking at me getting on top of a horse?
I would pay to see you.
That would be amazing.
No, but
I would pay to see Vanelli the jockey.
It took 10 years later to be put in the Karate Hall of Fame.
Wow.
But it took that long. And I kept saying, you know what? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, oh well. Photography, same thing. If I love that photo, now don't get me wrong. I do have a trusted voice. You, Cabesi. There's a few others that are my trusted voice. If Cabesi looks at one of my things, it says, "What the heck? You're such a rookie." I take it down right away.
Yeah, but he's mean.
Yeah, I take it down right away.
Cabesi can be very mean.
But no, he did something very, very good for me. I didn't style a shoot. He goes, "Who's this Dr. Rosita? He just looks like a good-looking guy, a muscle guy. Who is he, a boxer? What is he?" You didn't style the shoot. I took it down that moment. I was in the movie theater. I left the movie theater, and I happened to be in Publix, and I ran into one of my little girls, and I said,
"And you decked her."
No, I said, "Aren't you a hockey player?"
Bam.
She goes, "Yeah, go get your hockey stick. Let's do a photo shoot." And we used the hockey
styled
stick.
it, yeah.
And so I sent it to Cabesi. He goes, "There's hope for you. There's hope."
Yeah, that's really motivating. This is exactly why I don't send any of my work to Cabesi. But Mark, what you were saying though is so true. I'm always trying to tell photographers, you have to have a portfolio. You have to have a portfolio. You have to have, and there are some famous photographers that do not have a portfolio, and they use their Facebook page as a rolling port. That's not it.
It's not a portfolio. You know, one of the things I recommend in here is don't make a website or don't put a portfolio together with 300 photographs. Nobody's going to look at that. No. They will just go, they'll get bored, you know, like take your top 10 and that's your portfolio.
Yeah. Cause I say, and then Jay and a couple of people are like, hey, it's 24 photos. But if you ever look at somebody they're like, you're sitting there and they're going through your website, they never get through 24.
No,
they never
10.
get to
10
the
is
end.
The magic number.
You better stack that deck with the best ones up front.
What you do is you put your top 10, and as you
then trash after that.
Okay. Yeah, just don't even put as you progress, just keep making that the top 10. Right. You go, you know, that one isn't so good anymore. I'm going to take that.
So this is what I do. I put 10 of my best photos, then I put 10 or 12 of Benelli's photos, and then I come back with one of mine at the very end, so you leave with a good impression.
Now that's a pro tip.
That's how I stack it.
This is a pro tip.
Well, no, I looked at your portfolio on SlickPick.
It's SlickPick.
That's another good one.
Wait, that's a great gift idea.
Yes.
SlickPick. All right. So they used to be sponsors of the show. They're not anymore, but my portfolio is on there, and I love SlickPick. So SlickPick is one of the only places out there where they actually created their portfolios for photographers, not for artists, not for illustrators, not for commercial. They build it and they will actually build it for you. Exactly. So you can buy a version of theirs where their designer will sit and go, "What do you want?" And they'll do it. But honestly, their stuff's pretty easy. So I built my own, but their stuff is great. Their stuff is great. I love SlickPick. If you want to get somebody a really good gift, get them a SlickPick portfolio. And if you really love them, if it's like a family member, get them the one where they build it for you.
That's pretty cool.
But you got to get your work out there. And it is, I'm going to tell you, it is when you are going to hit the post button, there's going to be a pucker factor.
And just...
Your colon will shrink to the size of a dime before you press that button.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, don't tell the story until after the break.
Okay.
That screen over there, that's my screen. This is your screen. This is your screen. That's my screen. My screen says it's break time. You don't go to break. I go to break. I'm never having Vanelli on here. Well, I can't say that because I need his 10 photos for my portfolio.
Yeah, you're.
We'll be right back. Don't go away. We got Mark. We got V.
We got fun on
You
the
should
way.
love V flats. You're V. V flat world.
Please subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our new shows. Like the video and please share it and leave your comments. I love hearing from you. And remember to get out and capture your own images of life.